on from that, as you said, it touched on nicely. Like the under-18s starts to get, like the sevens starts to intertwine, and you find different aspects of rugby coming towards you.
Yeah.
How was it like when you sort of transitioned from the school rugby into, obviously you've got Glasgow and Scotland Academy, like you touched on, you've done under-16s clubs and things like that.
Yeah.
So how did your pathway go? Like, did you get an idea of this is how the sort of pro rugby career is coming along, or did that start to hit you then, or was it still just I'm just having fun playing rugby?
Nah, so I knew I was going to be getting a stage 3 when I left school.
Yeah.
In December, I think.
So stage 3, just for those that don't maybe know that's the Scotland academy, the Scotland Academy graduate.
Called like the senior academy now, I think.
I just knew you all used to turn up to the Edinburgh Napier Uni Gym and you used to throw weights around that I could only dream of lifting. So
that was the Edinburgh Academy. Yeah, we were based out of Broadwood, I think. I think they're technically based at Scotstoun or maybe Ravenscraig. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I'd known about that in December because I'd been looking at going to Loughborough for uni. And I think it was a case of like, we want to keep a hold of him. Here's a stage 3 contract. And then I'm obviously like, oh, I'm going to stay around. I'm going to be playing at Glasgow. But so I known that was kind of in the pipeline when I started playing 18s and stuff like that. And then when I came out of school, I mean, going from schoolboy rugby to men's rugby is like a massive jump. It doesn't even have to be that high of a standard. Like,
it's eye-opening.
Yeah, just the strength differences and things. Like, obviously, you could just run through defences at school. When you get to men's rugby, somebody's going to hit you. They're going to hit you pretty hard, and you're going to feel it. So it took me a long time to get used to it. And that my first season at Ayr, I remember playing a little bit of first 15, but mostly was in the seconds. Because I was playing 13, and we used to get guys like Paddy Kelly and Stafford would come and play for Ayr all the time.
Yeah.
So I remember League Cup. We won the double that year with Murchie as head coach. League Cup final, was on the bench, didn't get on. Scottish Cup final, was on the bench, didn't get on. And remember just kind of thinking like that was a bit of a nothing year, kind of coming out of school. I maybe had it in my head that I was going to be playing a little bit more, but I still managed to obviously get away on the 20s World Cup, and it just felt like I wasn't really playing sort of my best. I wasn't really ready for it maybe. And then that second year of like men's rugby at the Bulls and stuff like that, and then my second year 20s, I think like I had a different outlook. Like, obviously some other things happened just before that season started, which kind of changes your perspective on everything. And I just kind of broke it down and almost said to myself, like, just not putting as much pressure on myself as to be like, I don't have to be the best player in every single game I play. I don't have to make a line break every time I touch the ball. As long as I just do my job well and don't make loads of mistakes, then it's going to start going my way. And luckily I managed to cement my position at 15 in the Bulls team, and Murchie gave me the freedom of just to really do what I wanted, like in the game. And it just worked.
Okay, you had to clarify in the game.
Yeah,
I was just king of Ayr for about 2 years.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, not trained. I still had to obviously put the graft in a training and stuff like that. But no, it just worked way better for me. And then going into that 26 Nations, I had a good relationship with Sean Lenine just before it, and Shane Monroe was obviously our forwards coach. Good relationship with him because he was our academy coach at the time. And like again, I had more freedom to just kind of stay relaxed and just not put too much pressure on it, and more of a sort of leadership role within that team. And like, yeah, that was like, that Six Nations was definitely the most enjoyable rugby I've ever played. It was just like a good group of boys. We all got on really well, and we definitely could have won 4 out of those 5 games. Should have beaten England at Marseille, should have beaten France in Gala. Like, we could have put in some serious performances, and lucky it didn't go our way. But that was a pretty cool team to be a part of.
That's mental. So just to touch quickly back, you mentioned so you obviously didn't get on the pitch for the 2 finals. Obviously, with the under-20s coming up there, did that sort of worry you as a player? You're thinking, I've got to really cement my name to prove I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, because I'd had the Six Nations earlier in that season, and
Yeah.
I started the first game against Italy, got injured sort of 15, 20 minutes in,
Mhm.
and then struggled actually to get back in the team. I got lucky, fortunate with like a couple of injuries in my position, that I managed to get more game time than I was probably going to get. And unfortunately, I knew going into that 20s World Cup that I wasn't actually going to play that much,
Yeah.
just for one reason or another. And I don't know if that's maybe where my sort of change in mentality started, where it was like, I remember the second game against New Zealand, and it was just the sort of binges team that got chucked out for that game because they wanted to beat Georgia in the last group game.
Yeah.
And I remember like before that game just thinking they're not expecting us to do anything here, and just having so much freedom. And we ended up like, we obviously lost, but it was like the most points ever scored against any New Zealand side ever. The closest we've ever been to beating them or something at under 20s level, something like that. Ridiculous. Like we played a really good game of rugby. And I still knew after that I wasn't going to be getting back in the team. It was just like a breakdown in relationship.
Mhm.
But it just gave me the kind of outlook like, it's obviously cool to experience a World Cup, but like it's not gone the way I wanted it to. But it's not the end of the world. Like my career is not ending here. I've still got loads to look forward to. Once I get back to Glasgow, I've still got another year of 20s as well to do. So it's almost like the setbacks kind of just like, you can take them one way or another. You could either get really sort of bogged down on it, or just kind of look big picture and think, in 3 weeks I'm not going to play for this team again. I'm not going to play under these coaches. Like I'll be somewhere else. Like it's not
Mhm.
the end of the world, really.
That's a really mature way to actually look at it for somebody who's so young. Because at that point, you're what, 19 years old?
Yeah, I was
19 touching 20, or even 18 touching
I was
19.
still 18. Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
that World Cup. I was still 18. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't really. I think it's a thing that I've sort of looked back on and thought, like, especially when you're at school, everything you think of, you kind of microanalyze everything, and you think, oh,
Yeah.
that's so important, and that's so important. But in 6 months down the line, it's like, it didn't really matter, did it? And that's like, obviously within reason, you can't be carefree with everything you do. Like, I'm still very passionate about playing rugby and wanting to win. But I don't. I try not to put that same pressure on myself. My mum always says I'm my toughest critic, which is true. But I'm not like too hard on myself. I kind of get worked up on like petty things, like I didn't catch that high ball. How embarrassing is that? When it's like you're not going to catch all of them. It's like you say, hindsight. It doesn't really matter in 2 weeks' time, but in the here and
What's that one phrase? It's like, if it's not going to matter in 2 weeks, it's not worth 20 seconds worrying about, or something like that.
Literally, yeah. And like I say it quite a lot. I think when my brother passed away in September of 2019, that changes your perspective quite a lot. Not just in rugby, like just in general.
Yeah.
You just kind of, you look big picture on everything, and people like problems of stuff. You're just like, it's not like that's not an issue. That's not a problem. In the nicest way possible. Like if I'm speaking to one of my mates, obviously I speak to them all the time. We speak about everything under the sun, and if they're going through a rough patch, like we'll obviously talk about it. But I'll kind of say to them, like, look, it could be so much worse. In a month or two, like you're not going to care about this. You're going to forget you were pissed off about. And I mean that's just how like you can take stuff one way or take it another, and it's definitely kind of opened my eyes and sort of made me into a sort of better person, and like I've managed to transfer that.